Protecting students, teachers, and staff. What's the best way and who gets to say? Well, that debate ended up in court and a Leon County judge has ruled. We're hearing from key voices in Duval County, a school district now on the growing list where masks are mandatory. We also have a lawmaker supporting parental choice. The rush to evacuate Afghanistan turns violent. With American and Afghan casualties, it has become emotional for veterans.
Now we have thousands of Americans behind enemy line. Our at-risk Afghans are getting hunted down. Our allies no longer trust us. And we have a major looming counterterrorism threat. This is a disaster on so many levels.
Green Beret Michael Waltz gives us his view on This Week in Jacksonville. I'm so glad you're with us today. Thank you for being here. So masks in school, strongly recommended or mandatory? That's been the battle over the past few weeks at least. More than half of all public school students in Florida now face mask mandates. This week, a lawsuit saw 3 days of testimony, then closing arguments, then a ruling by Leon County Circuit Judge John Cooper. The judge Friday ruled that school districts can require students to wear masks and that the mandates need to follow guidance from the CDC to be what he called reasonable and consistent with the best scientific and medical opinion in this country. Joining us this morning, Duval County School Board Chair Elizabeth Andersen and local attorney and parent Chris Hand. Thank you for being with us. Ms. Andersen, did you and your colleagues on the board really, I guess, expect this decision, and was it a factor in the change that Duval County made to its policy just this past Monday?
I wouldn't say we expected the judge to rule the way that he did. And I don't know that it's necessarily a factor either. Our priority is making sure that our students and our learning environment is as safe as it can be. And that's the decisions that we make every day.
Chris Hand, I know former chief of staff of the city of Jacksonville, so you're also a parent to a child who goes to school here in Duval County. Why isn't it enough to have the opt-out possibilities and then leave it to parents to make decisions for their children's health?
Well, Kent, the supreme law in Florida, as you know, is the Florida Constitution. And the Florida Constitution is very clear about what the legal requirements are here. Article 9 says, first of all, that Florida is required to have a safe system of public schools. And it also says that local school boards have the power to operate, control, and supervise school districts. So people like Chair Andersen and her colleagues on the Duval County School Board and school board members around the state, it is their job to make health and safety decisions for their individual school districts. And that's very much what Judge Cooper said in the ruling he made on Friday, that the supreme law of the state is the Constitution and that the governor did not have the authority under Florida law to issue a blanket prohibition on universal masking policy. So therefore, Duval County Schools and the other 9 Florida school districts that have taken that measure to protect the health of kids and teachers and school district staff were within their discretion under the law.
Yeah, it's interesting. So last name Justice, but I'm not an attorney. So so many of us who are not lawyers, we've got an opinion, but really are interested in seeing how this plays out legally, what a judge, or apparently this is going to an appeal, what will come out of that. I want to take us back to Monday and show some video from this meeting. Chairwoman Andersen, Mr. Hand, you both experienced that emergency board meeting last Monday. Very heated. Board Chair, let me start with you. How intense was this? Because I heard descriptions that included there was bullying happening here.
We have had lots of tense meetings over the last few months. I don't think that this one was any different. People are passionate. They believe passionately on whichever side they fall. And so it's always good to hear from the community. We appreciate people's perspectives and their engagement with our schools. And it's a tough decision. No matter where you land, somebody's going to be unhappy.
Chris Hand, I know your extensive experience here. You've been in plenty of meetings that got heated, but what was this like from your perspective?
Well, Kent, there was no question that it was a very engaged crowd sort of on both sides of the issue. Why I think it makes it even more sort of remarkable and commendable how Chair Andersen and her colleagues handled the meeting in the face of a lot of emotion in that room. They had a lot of thoughtful discussion, brought in a variety of points of view. As you know, for example, at the meeting, there were presentations from a variety of health experts here in Duval County talking about some of the public health ramifications of universal masking, or if the school district didn't have a universal masking policy. And that's very important because, as you know, the numbers tell the story. As Chair Andersen knows better than anybody, last year, for the entire academic year, Duval County schools had just under 2,500 cases. We are now more than half that number in the Duval County schools just 3 weeks into the new academic year. So I think the meeting on the part of the board members was handled with the gravity of the public health situation. Different people got to weigh in, but I thought the board was very thoughtful in how they reached their ultimate decision.
So, and I appreciate that. Board Chair, if you'd maybe wrap up this section of our conversation here. This new mandate or whatever is not until after Labor Day. Masks will be required. So why the delay if it's as urgent as the board is saying it is to make this a mandate?
Sure. I think we had a lot of really great conversation around when the requirement should start. And I think we had a couple of board members that were pretty vocal and wanting to make sure that making this change and adjustment for families was going to require families to maybe get some things in order. If they wanted to opt out with that medical provision, they might need to make doctor's appointments. If they didn't have masks on hand, they might need to amp up their mask supplies. So we wanted to make sure that there was plenty of time for families to be prepared to be able to follow the rule. We wanted to be able to ensure that when students come to school, our administrators and our teachers have everything in place that they need to do to make sure that the rule is enforceable and that they can make sure that our students are safe and that the families have every ample opportunity to take their steps to make sure that their choice is able to be executed.
Yeah, clearly an emotional topic for a lot of people, but a very serious one as well. Board Chairwoman of Duval County Public Schools, Elizabeth Andersen, and then attorney and parent Chris Hand. I appreciate both of you this morning. Thanks for taking time.
Thank you, Ken.
All right, so the governor's office announced that it would immediately appeal the decision by Judge Cooper in Leon County, saying the administration is confident it will prevail on the merits of the case. For balance and to hear the other side, I spoke with State Representative Byrd Friday, shortly after the ruling. I asked why he disagrees with that ruling.
So in the statute, we put in a strict scrutiny standard, and without getting too down in the weeds in the law, the judge did not apply that standard. He applied a reasonableness standard. He took that word reasonableness out of the statute and improperly or took it out of context. He also made some other weird phrases. I mean, I think he should demonstrated a bias, quite frankly, in his ruling. He called it an orphan statute, which it wasn't. We put it in a separate chapter of law. We created its own section so that there would be no doubt that parents have the ability to direct the education, welfare, and health care of their children when they're in the hands of the public schools.
Why is it important to you to say parents should make this choice about masking rather than school districts saying this is in the benefit of our school district?
Sure, and I really appreciate you asking me that question, Ken. I mean, I have a child in the public schools, and so as a parent, very passionate about ensuring the direction of my child's education and health care. But also because I've heard from literally hundreds of parents. I was on the phone earlier today with a parent for half an hour listening to the problems that their child is having because of the mask mandate. And it just seems that from the media perspective, certainly from the public school perspective, only one side is being given voice. And I want to make sure that parents in HD11 and throughout the state of Florida that don't agree or at least have legitimate questions about what's going on in the schools, that they know that not only am I listening, but my colleagues in the state are listening, and certainly the governor is listening. So their concerns are not falling on deaf ears.
There are learned attorneys like you who say, wait, the school districts have a responsibility to make this kind of mandate or to make the rules that say all the students, all the teachers should wear masks. Why do you disagree with that?
Sure. One of the reasons is because the issue is not settled. When I watched the school board meeting, and they certainly had healthcare professionals that had one point of view. I have with me the opinion or a lawsuit that was filed this week by the Attorney General of Missouri, who's suing school districts. And if you read that complaint, or if you read the complaint, he cites to peer-reviewed studies and learned studies. I mean, the issue is that this isn't settled. And one side wants you to believe that it is a settled issue of science when it is not. And for those parents that do have legitimate concerns, they're not being heard. And so I want to, ensure that, listen, I don't impugn anyone's motives in that they want to protect kids, but I want to make sure that kids that do have certain challenges, that their voices are being heard as well, and that their concerns are being met. I mean, there are children. I heard from a parent whose child has an audible disability. They need to be able to read lips. Well, it's impossible to read the lips of a teacher who's wearing a mask, or your classmates if they're all wearing masks. So I just don't know that the school system has adequately met the needs of all of the children.
Is this political? Some of the critics say it's politically driven, not safety driven.
It isn't everything in our society today, and yes, there is politics involved in this. A week ago, Duval County School Board made the decision not to do this. Within days, an emergency meeting is called. 2 votes change. So I don't think there's any doubt that with an election coming up next year, that there is politics involved, just like there is with every issue that we deal with nowadays.
All right, so the U.S. is in a rush to meet the Tuesday deadline to evacuate Americans out of Afghanistan as a warning is issued for another attack at the airport in Kabul. Congressman and U.S. Army Colonel Michael Waltz has a message he wants veterans like him to hear. That's next. Stay with us on This Week in Jacksonville.
Wake up with Hardee's. You can have candy for breakfast. Wait, what? Because you are an adult. I sure am. New $3 French toast dips. Sweeten up your morning at Hardee's. Feed your happy.
Welcome to Toyota's National Sales Event.
Thanks, I'm here for a great deal.
Great deals are kind of our thing. You can save on the 2021s while they last, like Camry, Venza, Corolla.
Watching them come and go is really getting to my neck.
Occupational hazard this time of year. Gotta keep it loose.
Right now, during the Toyota National Sales Event, lease a new 2021 Toyota Camry LE for $229 a month for 36 months. That's just $229 a month on the Toyota Camry.
It all ends September 7th.
Toyota, let's go places.
The next time you head to Florida, expect an even warmer welcome with Easy Pass. Now you can use your Easy Pass to pay for tolls on Florida's toll roads and most bridges. Take advantage of more convenience and more savings with one toll account, all across the Sunshine State. After all, on vacation, shouldn't everything be a little bit easier?
Impossible.
Zero Sugar Chobani is here.
Zero Sugar Chobani has zero sugar?
Zero sugar.
Define zero.
And it's lactose free. Naturally.
And 60 calories?
Impossibly delicious.
Impossible.
Well, the car was totaled. I had no vehicle, and I needed help. After that initial phone call to Fair and Fair, I had no problem. They were right there for me. If I needed a vehicle, I got it. When you have somebody there 24/7, it's special.
Fair and Fair, here for you, here for good.
This Labor Day, get great values on Infiniti starting at $44.98. Everlast starting at $48.98. Cabot starting at $39.98. And lots of other paints and stains. Only at Lowe's.
Wake up with Hardee's. $2 sausage biscuit, $4 breakfast platter. But wait, new $3 French toast dips make the most important meal of the day more fun. Hardee's new $3 French toast dips, the sweet one on the 2-3 more breakfast menu. Feed your happy.
Don't let inconvenient weather crash your plans.
Blue skies in the morning, showers and storms cranking up.
Chief Meteorologist John Gahn and the Weather Authority. Your forecast is our forte.
We've got cloudy and damp conditions.
Exact Track 4D, counting in every minute to expect delays.
Oakleaf in about 40 minutes time.
Whether you're a rock star parent or steering wheel soloist, stay tapped in and never miss a beat.
If you have the Weather Authority app, you just got an alert.
The Weather Authority on News 4 Jax. Always watching, always tracking. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And we're looking live at the airport in Kabul, Afghanistan, where a security alert has been issued warning of a specific, credible threat and for Americans to immediately leave the airport. A suicide bombing this week came after a similar warning, killing 13 U.S. service members along with dozens of Afghans. The U.S. then followed with a surgical strike on ISIS-K. I spoke late this week with Congressman Michael Waltz, who grew up in Jacksonville. He also has more than 24 years in the U.S. Army, the first Green Beret elected to the U.S. House. The scenes from Afghanistan provoking strong emotions.
This whole situation was avoidable. It was unnecessary. And so you're asking me how I feel. I think I feel like a lot of other veterans and Gold Star families and 9/11 victims. It's an unhealthy mix between betrayal, grief, and rage. This is just infuriating and heartbreaking to watch. What do we do now? Because right now, Biden has two bad decisions. Either we stay in Kabul airport and continue to take suicide bombers and casualties, or we leave and we leave Americans behind by the thousands, along with the at-risk Afghans that have stood with us for so many years and stand to be slaughtered. What does he need to do? That airport is not defendable in the middle of that city, surrounded by the Taliban. We need to retake. Bagram Air Base, number one. That's just outside of the city. It's our air base that we gave up too quickly. It's defendable. And it has the runways. You communicate to the Taliban that we're not leaving any Americans behind. We are coming to get them. And if you get in our way, there will be painful consequences. And number three, you establish some internal sanctuaries for the at-risk Afghans. For the end of the day, we do not leave Americans behind, and we do not let terrorists dictate the terms.
There was talk in these last week, especially of, hey, we are working with the Taliban, hey, trying to be respectful to the people who live there, that kind of thing. I've also heard most people saying there's no way we can trust that what the Taliban has said they're going to do, they're going to follow through on. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't trust the Taliban as far as I can throw them. I've had to sit across from them on a number of occasions. Here's what they understand. They understand strength, they understand leverage, and they understand bullets, period. The more they smell weakness, the more they're going to take advantage of it. And what we're on the verge of now, Kent, if we leave these thousands of Americans behind, trusting that they'll continue to let them go past next week, we are going to have a mass hostage situation, the likes of which we haven't seen since 1979 in Tehran. Because every time the Taliban want leverage, not to mention Al-Qaeda and ISIS, they're going to take an American hostage that Joe Biden left. So the other thing to understand is Americans are far less safe. We are back to September 10th, 2001. Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are married at the hip. The intelligence has been clear on that. And that what happens in Afghanistan doesn't just stay there. It spreads like a cancer, and it will follow us home. I do not want to wait for another Pulse nightclub, San Bernardino, or God forbid, another 9/11 to take meaningful action.
So what's the action? You just mentioned those three steps that you think could be happening right there. What's the action in terms of helping fellow veterans, other people who served, other Gold Star families, the people that you mentioned at the beginning of our interview who right now are frustrated and heartbroken and angry and maybe even feel that betrayal you talked about?
Well, and sadly, tragically, we're seeing a major uptick in calls to hotlines. Listen, I want them to hear me crystal clear. To all of those groups, your sacrifice was not in vain. An entire generation of Americans have grown up now in peace, without the threat of planes flying into buildings, without the threat of suicide bombers on schools, without the threat of terrorism coming home. And so they should be proud of that, and their sacrifice was not in vain.
Very shortly at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, President Biden is expected to meet with the families of the service members killed in Kabul. The president will take part in the dignified transfer of the fallen. All right, changing topics in a moment. Rick Mullaney joining us. Our political analyst looks at the impact of all these news stories on President Biden and Governor DeSantis. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
Hey, Hey, school's in session, and here's today's lesson. I'll give you not 1, 2, but 3 reasons to buy. We have the vehicle you're looking for with a wow price you expect. We're fast, fair, and transparent, and every new car comes with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Plus, every purchase supports our local schools, teachers, and students. Your next assignment, get to Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville to help support your local schools. Deadline August 31st. We're here to wow you and our teachers.
You know, it takes lots of innovation to keep costs down. Mega amounts, like one of the largest solar expansions in the nation, and making our state-of-the-art natural gas plants ultra-efficient, which, by the way, has saved all of us billions of dollars. But there's more. We also built the most intelligent grid in America. I can go on and on. Tons of ideas, countless innovation, always keeping an eye out for savings. Who does that?
At Firehouse Subs, a portion of every purchase helps provide life-saving equipment to first responders across the country. So at Firehouse Subs, we don't just make subs. We make subs that are big, bold, and craveable. We make our subs differently because our subs make a difference. Like our new Chicken Gyro Sub with a pepperoncini tzatziki spread, feta cheese, and sliced grilled chicken breast. Firehouse Subs. Enjoy more subs. Save more lives.
You don't need to be a history buff to know the pirates got one thing right. Treasure belongs in a chest. Hormel Black Label Bacon. Make it.
In a world where temptation lurked around every corner, a league of Baby Bell cheese helped us realize another snack was possible. Baby Bell joined the goodness.
We want people to feel that when they call Harrell & Harrell, they're calling Harrell & Harrell. I mean, we feel like we made the right decision to be the size that we are, large enough to take on anyone, but small enough to care and really know our clients.
With more days to play and more ways to win, Powerball just got more powerful. Play the new Powered Up Powerball from the Florida Lottery. It's your ticket. Claim it!
When you're shopping for a new vehicle, how do you know which brand you can trust? With Subaru, you get Kelley Blue Book's Most Trusted Brand winner 7 years in a row. In fact, Subaru has won Most Trusted Brand for more consecutive years than any other brand. No wonder Kelley Blue Book also picked Subaru as their best overall brand, once again. It's easy to love a brand you can trust. It's easy to love a Subaru.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
The two topics we've discussed so far under the microscope now of Rick Mullaney, our News for Jax political analyst, the founder of Jacksonville University's Public Policy Institute. Good morning, Rick. As we talk about President Biden, he seems to be in the midst of a serious crisis for his administration. Is it fair to ask, what does this mean politically and for the credibility of the Biden presidency?
It is fair. I'm certainly the top focus right now over the next 24 to 48, 72 hours, of course. The focus is on getting all Americans out as safely as we can, our allies and Afghan supporters. But Kent, yes, there is no doubt this has been very damaging to the president politically and damaging to his presidency. And it's important to note it's not so much the decision to withdraw, it clearly, of which people disagree. It is the execution in which there has been bipartisan criticism of this withdrawal. It has been devastating, and you've heard many, as you just heard, talk about this in very emotional terms. Additionally, the president hasn't helped himself with press conferences. He's conducted himself in a manner in which he doesn't appear to have a firm grasp on what's going on. He's made a number of statements that are inaccurate. That has hurt his credibility. You see falling poll numbers. And then there's the international stage in which our withdrawal has been criticized in France, in Germany, and in Great Britain. So yes, Kent, the short answer is very challenging for the president, very damaging politically, and potentially very damaging to the Biden presidency.
So, Rick, let's shift to the mask mandate battle in schools, specifically in Florida and in Duval County. The decision by Judge Cooper in Leon County this week doesn't necessarily say what's right. As I understand it, it says districts should make the rules. Is that accurate?
Well, Ken, it's important here, and we talk about this in our MPP classes here at Jacksonville University. It's important to draw a big distinction between the legal issue and the policy issue. The judge was dealing with the legal issue, and that is who has the authority to make this decision on mask mandates. And Chris Hand laid out very forcefully the compelling arguments on behalf of the district why they have that call. You heard Representative Byrd talk about why he believes the governor has that call. But one thing is clear, the judge was not deciding what is the better policy. The policy issue is a disagreement between the governor and school districts over whether mask mandates are best for our children in terms of safety, in terms of learning, and civil liberties. That remains to be played out. Politically risky for the governor as this plays out over time, but we should separate out the legal issue from the policy issue from the political issue.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the political issue in the time that we've got left, Rick. What does this mean for Governor DeSantis? Because he was riding a wave of good feelings for his supporters, and that seems to be on the downslope right now.
Kent, he's taken a very high-risk approach. He could have deferred to home rule here. In other words, he could have been against the mask mandates. He could have been kept Florida open in terms of avoiding lockdowns, which of course isn't an issue, and deferred to home rule and let various counties, there's 67 in Florida, make their own decision. Rural counties may make one decision, urban areas may make another, suburban areas may make a different decision. But instead of deferring to home rule, the governor felt, and he's very passionate about this, that all parents in all 67 counties should have the right to make this decision. And he's directly at odds with the CDC and school boards. This will be, and in the midst of the surge here in Florida and hospitalizations, this is risky. Very risky politically, and Kent, for 2022, it's 14 months away. If next summer we still have a problem, this could be very, very serious for the governor. For now, it's a very high-risk strategy on the governor's part.
The governor up for re-election in 2022, but lots of talk. He's never confirmed it, but 2024 and potentially as a presidential candidate, this could impact both of those things, right?
There's no question. Kent, when you look at what the governor's strategy is or what his politics are, it clearly is one that plays very strongly to the base. And there are some that are obviously very strong in their positions. There's a divide. Some that are very opposed to what the governor's doing, some very favorable. But that group in between, the moderate group, the independent group, they're the ones that are at risk with the governor's strategy. He has an eye towards 14 months from now, the governor's race. But everyone knows, of course, beyond that is 2024 and the presidential race. The position he's taking plays well with his base, but not playing so well necessarily with moderates and independents. And the real test will come in the months ahead. Does this surge continue? Do hospitalizations continue? What's it going to be like in Florida? The best thing for the governor would be if people got vaccinated and you saw this surge decrease and hospitalizations decline.
Yeah. Rick Mullaney, certainly something we're watching both on that statewide level, the national level we talked about with President Biden, but appreciate your insights this morning. All right, so as we leave you today, Hurricane Ida is approaching Category 5 strength. It's expected to bring life-threatening storm surge to Louisiana. Before we go this morning, we want to take you back to some images here from Louisiana. This is in New Orleans. The state of Florida has sent some help here. Also, local agencies, including JEA. We know the Coast Guard is staging and trying to stay ready for what's happening there. But this is going to be the strongest storm to hit Louisiana. That's with the forecast. Just shy of Cat 5 wind strength. You can stay up to date on news4jax.com.
See why every day more people are choosing News 4 Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.